Welcome to the Atheist in Recovery podcast, where we talk about finding hope in recovery. And now your host, Dr. Adina Silvestri.
Well, hello guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Atheists in Recovery podcast. And today I thought we would do a solo episode, and I would sort of outline the 5 most frequently asked questions I receive in recovery. So let's just dive right in. Number 1. Is AA the only way? So a lot of individuals find me on social media or on my website because they say my site is not hippy-dippy, which I appreciate, and they want alternatives to treatment. So is AA the only way? And I assume that all of you know that it is not. But in case you don't, AA that's like saying that there's only one way to treat depression. There's only one way to treat anxiety. AA is a tool. It is probably the most widely recognized tool. And I do think people find it helpful. I do think there are certain aspects of AA that are really great, like the sense of community and being able to have a sponsor that you can call anytime, day and night. I love that. I love that part of AA. But it's not for everyone. So for people that don't subscribe to a specific religion or dogma, this is not the best pathway to recovery for them. And so just be very curious. Definitely go to an AA or an NA meeting, but stay open-minded, stay curious, try multiple communities to see which one is the best fit for you. Maybe it's AA one day and maybe it's a Buddhist circle the next day. Really just stay open to the process. There are also some great online communities too, like Tempest. And I'll link to that in the show notes for this episode below. Okay, so number 1, is AA the only way? Number 2, will I never be able to have another drink again? I get it. Having that thought can be very scary for some of us. We've lived our lives where, our brain was consumed with wanting to find alcohol, wanting to find it, wanting to drink it, obviously, after we found it. And that's what life was like for so long. It was hard to function without it. So it's almost like a love affair. And so when you're that committed to something, it's hard to think that it's going to be gone forever. And so really, I would say to that, it depends. Are you a severe binge drinker? Or are you someone that drinks, but maybe also has found a way to function? Although probably not optimally, but you're able to function on a day-to-day basis. I would assess where you are right then and there and just be honest with yourself. I think for so long we thought of addiction as this very black and white disorder. And it's so much more than that. It's so much more than what the diagnostic tools that we currently have, like the DSM-5, suggests. It's so fluid. You could be addicted to drugs and alcohol now, or, just sticking with alcohol. You could be addicted to alcohol right now. And then perhaps in the future, moderation is something that you feel like you can tolerate. So just be very honest with yourself and with your treatment team. Also, family history plays a big part in this, as we had discussed in the last episode with Dr. Dick. You might have a genetic makeup that is pretty risky. And so you'll have a different story to tell than maybe somebody who does not have a very risky genetic profile. Okay. Number 3. Why am I so, insert negative feeling here, uncomfortable? Will this ever go away? So I get this question a lot in my office. After somebody has been sober for a while, they're having all of these negative emotions. Anger is pretty frequent. It's kind of bubbling up at the surface. Depression, anxiety, all of those things. You've trained your brains for so long to be intolerant to feeling uncomfortable. You've gone to great lengths to avoid discomfort, and you've sought drinking and other methods in order to just to sort of numb out, correct? So let's take anger for a moment and discuss that. Anger is definitely a very complex emotion. There's so much underneath the surface with anger. And so, if you're used to stuffing this emotion, now what do you do with it? Now, how do you survive? Again, I would just be very curious, where is the anger coming from? Maybe you even write a letter to anger. Give it a persona. Give it a look. What is it trying to tell you? And you'd be surprised. So I run anger management groups on occasion. And, we spend 8 weeks talking about anger. And a lot of the guys in my groups will say that their experience with anger is so much different now that they're sober. They're really able to stop and think and be very objective about what's making them angry at that moment, versus a drunken fueled anger. It's very difficult to slow the brain down in order to stop and think. It's like 0 to 100 pretty quickly. So that's number 3. Why am I so uncomfortable? Will this ever go away? Yes, it will definitely lessen. I don't think you want anger to go away because it has a lot of protective functions. And we can go into that in another episode, but you don't want it to completely go away, but you want to be able to manage it. You want to be able to control it. And so there are ways in order to do that. And a lot of the treatment communities will go into more depth as to how you can do that successfully. Okay, on to number 4. The old me ruined so many relationships. Will the people I care about most be able to forgive me and see that I am trying? This is a complex one because we want our support system near us. We care about them. We love them. But at the same time, we can tell when they are hovering. And so, the second question, the follow-up question is, will they stop walking on eggshells around me? I think it can be very difficult. I think that's why in treatment centers, a lot of treatment centers, family therapy is a very important component because, you're having to build a new relationship with these individuals and then with you. They're building a new relationship with a sober you. So, in the beginning, maybe your family's mission was all about you, really, really all about you, getting you safe, getting you into treatment. And as they started to pull back, hopefully, they're starting to take more care of themselves. And so, how do you navigate that difficult dance? Navigating this new dance isn't easy. So much of it is managing our own expectations about the people around us, about our family, the people that we want to show that we've done this amazing work. You want to scream, hey, look at me. I'm doing it. I am doing it. And you should be proud. You should be proud. But we have to really manage our expectations around others, because even if we want our family, our partners, our best friends to show up and respond in a certain way, we have no control over that. If they are walking on eggshells, maybe we address it. We tell them how we want them to show up. I really would love it if you could support me in this way. If you could just listen, just be there, and give specific examples. Maybe you don't know how you want them to support you. And that's okay too. Maybe you just start by having open, honest dialogues. Knowing that person may never show up the way that you want them to. Think about it. How long have you known them? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your sister or brother? Is it your partner? Maybe they just don't show up in that way, and that's okay. So then we have to manage our expectations. We have to accept them just the way they are, with appropriate boundaries, of course. And once we can do that, once we can set those boundaries, then our responses to them will start to change. And that dance, well, it's going to be a better one, where things are just a little bit easier. Just to recap, we want to really be curious about AA and know that it's not for everyone and that there are other treatment options out there. 2, will I never be able to have another drink again? Again, it's sort of that it depends situation. And just knowing your family history, just like we talked about in episode 2, is incredibly, incredibly important. Will I ever be able to stop feeling angry or anxious or whatever that negative feeling is that we've run very far from in the past? Now that it's in our face, will it ever go away? You'll be able to control it eventually, but we don't want it to ever go away, completely anyway. Number 4, let's talk about the family. Part of the sober you needs to be to talk about your feelings. If your family is walking on eggshells, if you do think that they're not in a place of forgiveness, maybe that's your stuff coming up, maybe not, but you need to address it as a family. And then number 5, what if I relapse? Well, mistakes happen. And the good news is you get to start over again. And asking for help is so important, you guys, really, because we can't do this on our own. That's why I started the podcast. I started the podcast because I knew that there are so many others that were struggling. And I wanted to bring this hope into recovery and let them know that they're not alone. So I hope you enjoyed this solo show. You can find the show notes for this episode over at atheistsinrecovery.com, where I link to other communities and science research and all that good stuff that we talked about today. All right, guys. Well, until next time, have a good one. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Atheists in Recovery podcast. For more great info and to stay up to date, head over to atheistsandrecovery.com.